So anybody got anything on your mind? Any questions, thoughts, language things that you want to share or that you want to maybe ask about? Any announcements?
If you guys are on campus, Wednesdays from noon to 1, we have Tlingit lunch down in the NRSC. We practice Tlingit.
Can you say that one more time?
Wednesdays from noon to 1 down at the NRSC. It was kind of impromptu lunch with Saul, and then kind of grew in that. And then Austin Tagman said he'd be willing to do us.
Ah, wow.
So we got this yesterday. We got about solid 45 minutes of the breakdown of love.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where is that? Sheesh.
Down in the NRSC, just going to like the ramp, but instead of going to the building, just go downstairs.
Oh, right in the cafeteria. Okay.
Yeah. You go down there and like you see students there, student workers. It's right across from them.
Oh, Colleen works down.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I work down there Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and every Wednesday from noon to 1. I think from here on out will be.
So do you bring something to share, or you just BYOB? You bring your own rapid?
I think it's BYOB. But at the same time, we do have sound fixings for faculty, staff, and students.
So you could bring something to share if you wanted to.
Like this last time, we just had chips and dip set up for everybody.
Nice.
I just think like the further we go, the more like math this seems. I mean, because there's so many.
Exactly. That's what we talked about yesterday.
I'm not good at math.
You're great at math.
There is some kind of math to it. You guys online, can you hear us? Okay, it's working. We're waiting for Raban Kha.
So I do have a question. I was looking at the directional, like towards or from, and some of them were like one word plus another word. And so does that mean you're supposed to have to say them as one word, or is there something in the middle? So I'll give you an example. One that's the word for moving out of control blindly or a miss. It said U underline X plus K low chunky I.
Oh, you're looking at James's? Is that on Zouch? Or is that on?
Well, it was in the dictionary, just the regular dictionary.
Usually you'd say ugh and K. It's just saying there's two words, but they always go together.
Okay, so there's nothing like in the middle.
Yeah, and that one ugh K it's a really interesting one because as far as directions go, it really just means out of control or blindly. It doesn't mean, because some of them have to do with directions, but there's some that are very special.
I kind of see this.
Yeah, like put is another one, which means to get lost. Right? So to be lost. Let's see. Okay, those of you online, when you clicked on the link, did it just bring you to this meeting? Was there any extra steps that you guys had to take? Had to download the software and install it, okay. I'm letting Saul know. Okay, sheesh. Took me, okay, so oh, there you are. Yochsetin, Yik Egg. So like I said, you guys can have your cameras on. You can have them off if you want to. I'm pretty sure we'll always see your face if your camera's on. So it's totally up to you. Well, I'm the only one can kind of see your face, and because we're going to do like a screen share thing. I just want to see, make sure everything is working. And then I guess I want to be there. I want to be on the big screen. So I think I put myself on the big screen. I think I know how to do that now. So it might take a little while to figure out some stuff on how this works, but hopefully this works better than the other one. And so we'll see when you guys try to say something. So I guess that's probably the next step from here is going left from right. Those of you that I see online, if you could just, I'll call you and I'll call Sitka first, and just everybody just say one thing. It can be pretty short. I just want to see how it sounds and whether or not I have to mute myself. Gook.
Ika.
Esa huaach. Yake. Ganditaji itwa kana.
Wasa iti.
Yake nischish. Tna gook itwa. Oh, Shken itwa haku. Oh. Maybe the bottom left, that should be the mic button. It might automatically kind of disappear. And if you hover over, it should be on the bottom left. That's what it looks like. Oh, I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yaqi khasatini.
Wet soup and cheese. Kakan kai koha.
Ah. I don't know how to say it's beautiful here. Oh, hi, I got somebody else.
Yichsihan.
Yeah, cake and cheese. Okay, so let's.
I'm lost.
Oh, so now you should have. I'm going to mute you if that's okay. Okay, so let's take a look at kind of breaking down a phrase here. And so I'm going to make this font a little bigger, but. So this is a phrase that we might use regularly for feeling nice. You could mess around. Don't tell anyone I told you how to say it, but you could say if you wanted to be kind of mean. But yeah, just say kind of teasing. I wouldn't recommend actually saying that because it would mean it's terrible to see you. So this phrase, so if we think about the kinds of things that we've been talking about in here as far as Tlingit. Dasa?
Can you share the screen?
Oh, yeah, that's probably an important step, isn't it? There we go, okay. So let me, I'll make this actually a little bit bigger. Okay, so there are two, this phrase is made up of two words and they're both verbs, right? So the first one, if we were to sort of really kind of blow this thing up into all of its parts, it would look like a 0 and a ya and a root marker and a k, and then you'd have an I and a yu and a cha and a sa and a teen, and an I. So sometimes I like to do this kind of stuff just to show all of the sort of parts, and just as we sort of keep sort of moving between breaking the language down into little parts and then trying to do a whole language, these are some things that we can sort of practice. So one of the things that we see is we see yuck a. So what is this 0 thing? What is that thing? Object. It's an object, absolutely. He, she, or it. He, she, or it. So there is an object there. Yuck a, it is good. She is good, he is good. It can work for any of those things, right? The ya, what is the ya?
Subject.
There is a face, and this particular verb has no subject. There's a different ya, and this is a challenge as we're going to get to things that are identical. But if we see it just to the left as we blow it up like this, if it's immediately to the left, oh, let's see what's going on. No, in the chat, there we go. I gotta rearrange my windows here. Yeah, there we go. It's the classifier, right?
Isn't it the distance thing?
No, this one, when it's in the verb like that, whenever you have the root, the thing immediately to the left of it, when you blow it up like this, is the classifier. That is the classifier. And that's where it's always going to be. Okay, now I can see the chat, so I'm glad that this thing was flashing. Okay, I got a few things to figure out. Okay, so now what is the K part? It's the root. It means good or fine. So then you add those things together, it's good, it's fine. Okay, so now what is this it business?
You.
No, it's the subject.
Oh,
Isn't it?
well, with the subject.
It is you, Y-O-U, but what is it?
Pronoun.
It is a
Object.
pronoun. It is an object pronoun. The object comes first. Object is first, right? And then we'll see some other things in there, and then we'll figure out what those other things have to be. So then we get to the next part over. You. Anybody know what this business is?
Is it another classifier?
This one's not a classifier. And so this is, as we get into these weather verbs, this might be the first time. We probably talked about it last year, but it was probably like, yeah, well, whatever. That's what that thing is. But now we're going to sort of hone our focus in on this thing a little bit. Anybody tell me, if we find it in the actual verb, it's right here. Can you guys still hear me out there? I get super paranoid, you guys can't hear. Okay, so not the areal mode. So when we get this right here in this location, this YU thing, and we write it with these 2 dots over it, we used to write it as a W or U or sometimes just a W, and it's usually going to be a W or a WU. This is what we call the perfective marker, okay? Perfective. What perfective means is when this thing turns on, this says we are strictly talking about this verb as in terms of whether or not it has happened. Okay? So once you see that perfective marker, you look to the classifier, and the classifier, if it's plus I, that means it's happened. And if it's minus I, that means it hasn't. And when it's plus I, would say si. It's minus I, would say sa. So this is a perfective marker. All you got to remember right now is it puts the verb into this mode where you're usually talking about something that has already happened.
Sit is has happened or has not happened?
When you have the perfective plus the plus I, it has happened. So what is the cha? What is this cha business?
Me.
Me. This is the subject I. So this is you, I, verb. You, I, verb, right? This is the order of Tlingit, and this is, as you see Tlingit and hear Tlingit, and as you start to speak more Tlingit, these are the things. And just keep in mind, you're the 0%. Someone told me there's 0% of the languages in the world that go object, subject, verb. There is such a tiny, and we're in that group. We're like, yes, we are unique, like a snowflake, like everybody else, okay? So what is the sa? Oh wait, we had a question here. Are areals only found in verbs that are not done by people? So there is another thing. So in between the object, and what would come before the perfective marker is you can have these thematic prefixes, and one of them is k, like we're also going to see in the weather. K does not mean that there's nobody that does it, because you could say chet kudziti, I exist, but there's another form of I exist, or chet kudziti, I was born. But if you're sort of just saying like I was born there, but when they talk about a story like how that baby kind of wanted to be born, then it could be kudziti, right? And it could become a subject marker. So you can have that. Kushagao is another one. So you could, there was an elder, and she likes to tell me this story, that there was a lady, and she's sitting and talking with her friend, and they're getting ready to go, I think they're getting ready to go to church, if I remember the story right. And her husband just kept kind of bothering her, coming in and kind of like, kind of barking at her a little bit. And so she said, hold on, I'm going to go fight with my husband. Right? So kushagao means to that's not really arguing, that's throwing it down, So you could say, I fought you. So the I is there, and then the k, and then the subject. So we start to hear these things, but then we can look these verbs up, and we should be looking these verbs up. But as far as how we start changing them, the key is figuring out where these things go. And in Tlingit, there's a bunch of stuff there, but it's always in the same spot. I mean, that's the one nice thing, is once you learn these sort of patterns, they're always in those same locations. So the sa is the classifier. What is the teen part?
See.
To see, right? That is to see. And then there's a couple of weird things that happen here when you tie two things together, right? So if I just said, I see you, it's a little bit different. That's how I say I see you. Everybody say, ich sitin. Ich sitin. Ich sitin. Ich sitin. Ich sitin. Ich sitin. There's also, so we see, there's I, X, W, S, I. That means there are really only two true vowels in here. And this can be a challenge for a lot of people. They'll try to say, ich sitin, or they're trying to put some other vowel, and there's just ilse, 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 ilse. So what's different between ilsetin and this one right here?
It has happened.
Well, no, I'm not saying meaning-wise. I'm just saying the sounds that we make and the way that it's spelled. We should be able to spot that there's a couple things that change. It has this I on the end. So the I on the end is how you would tie some things together. So you could say yuck a, and you can have a whole bunch. You could take any verb you want, throw it on after that, and basically put an I after it. You'll learn some other exceptions. But that's why you could say like it's good to see you. So hat good, you came here. Hat yigudi. It's good that you came here. So that's why that I pops up at the end. And we're going to look at some stuff later about how that works. But I know a couple of you were asking about this phrase, so I want to make sure that we touch that.
One quick question about that, because I don't understand why you're using the minus I classifier. If you're telling someone that it's good to see them, then it has happened. You have seen them. So why would you be using a classifier that it's for hasn't happened yet?
Okay, hold on. I forgot to check that. Okay. So the question is why, so the other thing that changes is the classifier has changed, right? So this is another just sort of thing, like when we learn how to use a perfective verb, a perfective will have a perfective marker, and it'll have a plus I classifier. Boom, boom, boom. Perfective plus I, perfective plus I. That's what the perfective verb has. When it's in the positive form, and you say not, then it has to go minus I. But whenever we tie two things together like this, right? You could say It's good you hunted, right? It's good that you hunt. It's good that you ate. There could be a whole bunch of stuff, right? But that second one will go minus I. And it's not a big thing, but it's just as you go later and you're going to start packing more stuff in your brain, that's going to be one of those things. And it doesn't have to go in your brain right now. But the things that should go in your brain is just the order of these things, the object, it's going to go object, thematic, conjugation stuff, subject, classifier, root. It's the order that things go in. You get your tattoo on your arm, or you could just write it in Sharpie if you're not really ready for a tattoo yet. But these are...
Can you say that one more time, please?
Yes. So it is going to go, and let me grab a little...
You could get a tattoo, or you could...
You get a tattoo, or you get a Sharpie if you want to kind of a little bit impress me. Let me pull up a little graphic, and that'll I think graphics help. So hold on one second, let me find it. So where did I... Oh, here it is. So while I'm looking at this, you guys online, does this seem like a workable sort of online thing?
I think it's rad. See.
Okay, good. We'll take rad. Okay, so if we look here, so this is the sort of the pared down version of what a Tlingit verb is and does, right? So you have what we call the preverb out here, and the thing that lives in the preverb is hus, them, and they. They're like out on Pluto. They go on the outside of most everything, right? Then you go object, thematic. Thematic are little prefixes that have meaning. Like p is a space, ka is on, ya is a vertical surface. Then you're going to have anything that has to do with conjugation. It's going to put the verb into future mode, perfective mode, other things like that. Then you're going to get the subject. So this is who's doing it, and this is who it's being done to. Then you get the classifier and the stem. So that's the order that things have to go in. They have to. Like in English, you can move them around, right? You could say, he poked me. It was me that he poked, right? So you could kind of, you got to force it, but in Tlingit you can't do that. It has to go in this order. And when you see in the verb theme, you see O/S/chan, there always has to be an object and a subject there. You can't forget that. Okay, you can. So let's just work on a few phrases here as we sort of continue to move along. I haven't seen, I see a couple of folks who have logged in. We are using Zoom now. Okay, I'm saying all kinds of bad things in the Adobe Connect thing, I'm trashing Adobe Connect and telling them why we moved over to Zoom. So it might be a little bit of a transition. So hopefully you guys can make your way over. I don't want to try running them both at the same time using the audio and stuff. Okay. So everybody just repeat after me. Tlingit chenachsa. Tlingit chenachsa. Tlingit chenachsa. Tlingit chenachsa. Tlingit chenachsa. Tlingit chenachsa. Oh, for push. Push in their chairs. I'd probably have to, I think it would be sak. Maybe. But let's take a look. So we had a question which is trying to figure out how to say push your chairs into your, under your desk, basically. let's go here and we'll start here. I'll make this bigger. So here's sock, which is to push something. Thread a needle, push a, raise your hand, give a shot. I think it's just pushing a boat though. So let's see if I don't see a different one. You might have to consult some of the older folks about it. That's a good question. That's a good one that people should know. So if we go into the verb dictionary, we could see push, crowd, to push, to launch a boat out. So those of you who know the Ducklawady song, it goes, Dak Yai Shatsak Wade Yak. Shatsak is a command form to poke. And it's also to, like, you could say Dak Shatsak Ishu, or Dak Tsak Ishu, which is to stick your tongue out. It's a related verb. Jishitsak is to raise your hand or to extend your hand. To push something with a stick. To push with a pole. Press or to roll. I'll have to ask. I would probably say, wait, nadak tayi sak ikayakajate, but I'll have to see. I'll have to see, because I've got another one too. Let me see, because I think I've got this one somewhere. It might be Guk too. I did this project with their opposites. And so my kids had these little cards. And it's like a little puzzle that you put together. And let's see. And I worked with these speakers to, here it is. We'll do our opposites presentation. This one's really fun. These are two elders that I'm very, very blessed to work with on a regular basis. On the left, we have Kahwan Ish, George Davis, and on the right, we have Shakshani, Marge Dutson. They are just fantastic. And so we found this little thing of opposites that my kids have. And so this will be kind of fun. We'll get there, but we're actually, and I'll make a little PDF of this and I'll put it on our site so you guys could look at it. I think it's fun stuff. And we're gonna get to push and pull. But first, we'll just practice sort of saying these because they're kind of fun. So this could be crooked or it could be twisted. It could be crossed, like if somebody's cross-eyed. It's not a nice thing to say, but this is how you would say it in Tlingit if somebody goes cross-eyed or something.
Curvy? Could it be curvy?
It could be curvy. Yeah, and so the verb root means to twist something. And so even if a road is curvy, we think of it as twisted up. And to say it, you say kaudzitik. 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 Yadachun. 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 So that means straight ahead, but it also means like straightforward, honest, and it could be sort of this thing where, like, let's say we're in a meeting and we're just kind of going or we're in a class and we're going all over the place, and you say Yadachun de nagu, like just go straight ahead.
So that's in a song that.
This is also what you call out in a song when you're going to sing the vocals. If you're a song caller, you say Yadachun, and then they start singing the vocals.
Yeah, this is a song that we got from Canada that we sing in Yakta.
Oh yeah, yeah, and if it has Yadachun in it, then they're saying straight ahead, and it usually means like just go as well, because you could say. Like if you're in an organization and everybody speaks Tlingit, and you say, we're just going to plow ahead. We're going to go straight forward.
One of Sean's songs, I believe.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
He gifted it to us.
Awesome.
It's one of our regulars now.
Okay, so this one is full of liquid.
Good at it, too.
Okay. Shawaket. 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 So this is to be full. And then the opposite of that, achokti. 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 But what's interesting, like that's a verb. You should be able to see it. Eat is the root. That is not a verb, right? This is what we call a relational noun. It just means it's empty. And same with halfway. Halfway is katut. And it's interesting because you wouldn't use a verb just to say it's empty or it's half full, which is just kind of fun things to think about. Yayet. Yayet. Usually like a stick or a rope or something to be long. Yekuwach. 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 To be short. Yekugank. 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 It's small, and this is only like non-living things, right? People and dogs and cats and birds or whatever, they're not yekugank. It's a little bit different. Yekugay. 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 So if that was a little bird, excuse me, that'd be yeksagank. So the classifier changes. Why does the classifier change? Because we're classifying. We're saying, oh, that's a living thing. This one, yeklagay. Right? Or no, it would be yeklagay would be it's a big, like a big sea lion or a big whale or something. Yadash. 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 Hesh udash. Hesh udash. And if this was a heavy person, it'd be shadash. Shadash. Hesh udash. Classifier changes because we're talking about living things, right? So tsu is the color. Qonei quch. Qonei quch. Go. Right? Start going, go, drive. That means start driving is what it means. Right? So this is a command form, which is why it has the exclamation point. So if you were sitting there and the light was green and someone wasn't paying attention,
Could you say this to them?
What's that?
If you were the person for a race, you could be like, start and say this instead.
Yeah, you could say qonei quch. Y'all start if they're driving. If they're running, you'd say qonei yishanaquch.
So the gook is
The
similar?
gook is for multiple people to run.
Oh, but when you say gook,
Oh, gook, that's different, yeah. It just means do it. Whatever it is, we've already talked about it, do it.
okay.
And my favorite, like, I do this English Tlingit combination all the time. I'll say K gook, but the K part is just like okay. Right? I say it all the time. So this is a prohibitive form, and you see they get a little bit more complicated. So that is don't go. And Marge, she said, "You're not going anywhere." Then she started laughing. So that's how that one works. The door, and this isn't close the door. This is just saying the door is open. Ahat heideshutan. Ahat heideshutan. So this is, you see like the hey in there, which is one of those ya, he, we, you things. Ahat is the door. Shutan is a verb for something with a hinged lid to open and close. Ahat atshuduwatan. Ahat atshuduwatan. So this one, we see the verb is a little bit different. So shutan is just, it's open. But in this one, to say it's closed, you're actually saying somebody closed the door, right? And these are just interesting. When I worked with the speakers and I asked them how to say this, and then I just thought about the ways that they talked about it and the way that they think about it. Yaki. Yaki. Chana. Chana. Right, so we got to make sure that we're not saying chana, but we're saying chana. Okay, so now it's going along the water. Hin yanakach. Hin yanakach. Let's have a next. Nah. Wusitach. Wusitach. It's especially for like a boat to sink. Yeast. Kaku. Oh, right.
And now is that for like a specifically non-living things?
Yeah, but you could say it. You could say it for a. There's a later one with a baby and an old person, and then he said klaku, and then he really laughed. So you could do it if you're being funny, because klaku means like ancient, really old, kind of falling apart. So you could, but you usually wouldn't. You'd say we'll show you the one for that.
My last energy.
Shatkatsu. Atkatsu. Kayeti. Kashish. But you can also say kashan. And if it was a lady, you could say shawat shan. Be careful with those ones.
Why?
Because, like if you saw, it's sort of like English. If you saw like an old lady and said, "Hey, old lady," she might get upset. But, so, and same with Tlingit. But Shan just means to be old. We'll say Shlish. Yanwat is another way to say adult or elder. Atwiskuhu is elders, like knowledgeable people. They know things. It's a really nice way to say it. Ta. So this is a verb. This means he or she is sleeping. It's a kind of an interesting one to say, right? So I could say ta'ake i'ik. Is your brother sleeping? Ta'ake i'ik, right? Keudzigit. So this wudzigit would be like he fell. Keudzigit is to sort of fall, but to come, this is like got up, woke up, Ankawu. Kanashkide. And a lot of times there's a K, like kanashkide.
So if you wanted to say like format,
you'd say kanashkide chatzati. So a lot of times there's a K on here. When Kahwanish said it, there was no K, so I just wrote it as they said it. But this one pops up in the Raven stories a lot. Like this, when he was that Box of Daylight story, when the lady's trying to have the baby, and they put all these fine furs under, and he didn't want to be born. And it was a really interesting verb because they said he did not want. There was no way he could lower himself or something like that. And then they put that moss tzechoni under him. And then he was born onto that. They said he wanted to be a poor person. And then there's other ones where he's thinking, well, the poor people can't even get those salmon. I want to go get it for them. So it's a really important term in Tlingit too, because they'll say, think of the poor people, and they'll say things like that in the language a lot when it comes to putting up food and sharing things.
So kanash. Let's see.
Anashkide. Anashkide.
Add an X.
A K and an underlined X, and then khat was the object, sati. Or you could say anashkide sati. If you're just you're talking about somebody, like, you might talk about somebody they lost their job, or whatever. There's the various things that could happen.
So how do you say I'm a poor man?
Anashkide khatsati.
So GIDAX.
Yeah, so I'll just change it on here. So now you've got the object pronoun, so you can say isati, you're a poor person, and it's not a man, it's just a person, right? It's not a sign, but that is usually the way you would say a poor person.
But there's no shame in it.
No, it's not like, they shouldn't, they're not, historically in Tlingit, they're not made fun of. It's just something that, there are other things that you would say for people that this, like you say, nichka yedi and stuff like that. Those are really derogatory type of things. It means you get kicked out of your house, so you don't have one. Kaduasai. Kauduasai. Kauduasai. So there's an object right here. It's a 0 right now. So how would you say, I'm hot, like I'm perspiring? You are hot. And this isn't like you're hot, baby. This is like you are sweaty, right? This is how I think of it. It. We are hot. Hakauduasai, right? So as soon as you sort of see what kind of thing goes in there, now you're going to start learning how to change those things. Say what? Ooh, hold on. It's out there in the world. Someone say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Same thing. There's an object pronoun right there. He or she is cold. How would you say they are cold?
Say what?
Say what? Yeah, away. I am cold. Say what? You are cold. Right? So I walk around with my kids, and they don't like to wear jackets. I'm trying to train them. You go side. But I'd say what?
So I'm looking at the pronoun chart, and it seems like for these last two expressions, whenever you are using the pronoun, you're using the object pronoun, but when you translate it, it goes into the subject position. Am I just way off?
No, because English uses subjects all the time to express states. I am angry. I am hungry. I am tired. It's always these I things. With Tlingit, they're almost always me things. You're the object, right? And it's just an interesting way to think about it. What does that mean? I don't, because usually in Tlingit, if you're using the subject, that means you are, because you could make someone cold, right? Like let's say I get a little conservative with my heating oil. So, you could say that. You could say, I'd have to think about it. Because to chill something, okay, now we gotta consult the charts. So coming here, we have ot, which is so this is it, to make something cold, right? So this would be in the perfective form, khwase'at. So I'd say, issa khwase'at, which would be kind of a weird verb because for people to be cold, it's just a little bit different than for something to be cold. But yeah, so for these, once we translate them, we could translate them the way that the Tlingit is working, but then it just sounds like we're Hollywood Indians, right? Be cold, and so, but that is the way that Tlingit works. Okay. Now we're done. Uh-oh. You guys all there? Okay, I hadn't unmuted myself. Okay, there we go. So, there we go. Now I know. Okay, so things. Hopefully, I didn't say too much. Okay, you can't account for user error, so we went from there to here. Okay, we'll just say the whole thing, and then we'll just focus on the verb root itself, because this one is a little tricky. Would it tuck? 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 Tuck. 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 So this is like if you're eating herring eggs and then you're wet, like finish the herring eggs before you say it, or else they're gonna come out. So same thing. There's an object pronoun there. How would you say I am wet? Hut would it tuck. There's a couple things, and you'll learn this later, but this, when it has this, this is a perfective marker, the would. We should also recognize that. Like, that doesn't mean it's a past tense thing. It means whatever it is, it has already happened. You can't be wet without being wet, right? You can't say I'm wet and then you get wet, right? It doesn't work like that. And so there's a couple things though. When it has this at the beginning, you'd say chet would it tuck, would it tuck, iud it tuck. So we go to iud, and we'll get to that kind of stuff later. Ooh, a hook. Ooh, a hook. Ooh, a hook. Ooh, a hook. Uh-oh. Pitsagay teke una ishan. Chaana yak was akay ti. What's play? Okay, we might have lost the Sitka gang, but we'll see. Hopefully they re-emerge. So hook really means for something to be dry. In this case, if you were saying this, you would probably actually say, I am not wet. But I don't know. Because this could also mean, like I could say, ziskli hook. He or she, the moose meat is dry, right? Like it has been dried. So my clothes are dry, right? Okay, we gotta get to push. Woodletich. It is frozen. What's gonna happen next? No. Wushisha. 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 It melted. Right? There's something, I don't even know. There's not that much. It doesn't really change. But he seems pretty and like this kind of.
Happier when it's frozen.
It's unfortunately probably looking into the future.
Oh,
now I'm kidding.
Immediately. That's not very far, just one slide into the future. Una. 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 Una.
You could say this about people, but you usually do not. You usually say, hanakhugut, they went away from us. They all went away. There's different ways you could say that. We're not going to say it right now. Yatzin. Yatzin. And that means it's a lot. It's all it's really saying. It's a lot. Yeah, yatzin. You could say that. Yatzin. I don't know if it works the same way. Claim. 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 So that's big, right? A kutsku. A kutsku. A kutsku. It's a little thing. You can also say yateskigank, which is, it might fit better here, but I went with what they told me. Woodlinet. Now this one really, even though it's a cat, it applies to people. This is not something you would say for animals, because for animals you would say wutai, which also means like it's ready to be eaten, right? So these are some things, I guess, like if you're Jeffrey Dahmer, I don't know. Wushikach. Hadayin. So this one is an interesting one because it means to face, it's facing us. So the tricky thing is and you just have to hear it in other contexts and know what kind of word that is, because that's not a verb. So because it's not a verb, you would say, to say he or she is facing me, say achdayin. So that is a relational possessive pronoun. It's a possessive pronoun, right? Okay, so now the puppy's going to face away from us. Hadakan. Would do a shot. Qayis hitidach naqdakin. Qayis hitidach naqdakin. That means it is. This is probably it should be an A. And that means it can fly out of jail. It can be free.
Hididach is jail.
Qayis hit is jail. Qayis or Qayis hiti. But it's tricky because there's a clan house called Qayis hit. So, but Qayis hiti is usually, and then dach would be from. Qayis hiti de nagu would be go to jail. Qayis hiti dach from jail. Yeah.
We should adopt that for Flying University.
Yeah, Qayis hiti dach naqadakin. You can fly out of jail. You're free bird. Get out.
Free bird. Yelled at concerts.
Qayis hiti dach naqadakin, bro.
With your
Later.
Okay.
We're out. So fun.
Zait de yi. Zait de yi. Zait de yi. Zait de ki keu de kat. Zait de ki keu de kat. So this is interesting. When they saw this, they didn't have a verb on it. You could say he's sitting under the ladder, and below it, kind of. But this one, he climbed to the top. Keudetet is to climb using usually all fours. What would you look up if you were looking for facing? So for facing, it would be this one. So going back to the little dog. So you could say achtakin or achtayin, sorry, achtayin, and then you could say, but then it's a little bit different because if you want to say facing, you would probably be saying like, look at me, right? Look at me. It depends if you're doing a teaching situation, that's usually, but if you wanted to say face this thing or face that thing, so I could say like hayuk dayin gaidana, like stand facing hayuk. So you could say something like that.
So is the ha, I'm confused why the ha comes first if it's talking about us at the end as the.
So this is facing us, ha dayin. So that dayin has to do with what it's facing. So you can say ach dayin, it dayin,
Oh, and I guess you can
hastu
say,
dayin.
what about he or she is,
There's no verb there.
Okay.
So you,
Okay,
right, there's no, you could put verbs there. So you can say sit facing me. You can say ach dayin paike, y'all sit facing me. Right. Wait, taya dayin paike, sit facing that wall. This one has a verb, she's standing. Huk shukat hun. Huk shukat hun. Huk shukat hun. So the huk is the box, shuka is in front of, and then the T is a suffix. We'll get to those guys later. Huk tate hun. Huk tate hun. Huk yikt hun. Huk yikt hun. Huk takkat hun. Huk takkat hun. We're gonna get to push. We're gonna get to push. We're almost there. I thought these would be fun. I got distracted because they are fun. De tayit hun. De tayit hun. De tayit hun. De tayit hun. De kinat hun. De kinat hun. De kinat hun. De kinat hun. Kajucha ya anaskuk. Kajucha ya anaskuk. Kajucha ya anaskuk. Kajucha ya anaskuk. So now we get there. So guk would be to push your chair. Since then we got to do a little bit of investigative sort of work here. So it's not in here. So the one thing that we do have to, so we see it here. And we see it, you know, uwakuk. So what I would say yikuk yikaya kajit. Push your chairs. Yikuk yikaya kajit. Yikuk yikaya kajit. So I have to do a little bit of work. I'll try and take this to the elders next week and make sure that that's correct. Or I'll see if some other folks can check with speakers. But that's, you know, so we can see it based on our little slides over here. Ya anaskuk is to push. So next we're going to pull. Kajucha ya anaskut. Kajucha ya anaskut. More. There were a lot of these cards. These were really fun. Okay, there's just a few more. Dekinde. 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 Deyinde. Deyinde. Tsatnach ade. Tsatnach ade. Tsatnach ade. Shinach ade. Shinach ade. Ayach aweh. Ayach aweh. And our last one. Kesh ayach aweh. Kesh ayach aweh. And you could also say kasha yachuti and the yachyati. Same, they would be the same. You could add a verb or it doesn't need a verb. Okay, let's take 6 or 7 minutes, and then we'll resume. We'll get back to beginning Tlingit. That was fun. I disagree.
Are there actual, like ones that are thing?
Oh yeah, you can. There's different ways you could flirt and Tlingit. Like you look fancy and stuff like that.
I'm just.
Okay.
Exactly.
Back to Spanish, everybody. Okay, let's see. Let me remember to share my screen. So the problem with having software that works is now I have to be accountable for my own actions. So, okay, so we counted. We can count to 10, and we're gonna take.
So what software are you using different than what you did before?
So it's this one called Zoom, which actually was recommended last year, and I tried it, and I didn't realize that there was an option to record locally on your computer. So the downside is there'll be one additional step. The YouTube option was the best because there was no additional step. It just archived it straight to YouTube. But this one, it should be able to, it records the class, and I should be able to upload it to YouTube.
Was that more of a university problem than like a technical problem?
No, well, the problem was it was Google's problem because they had this thing called Hangouts on Air, and then they canceled it. They just did away with it. So the problem with relying on free software is they could stop it at any time. Mm-hmm. So then I researched, and some folks were using Adobe Connect, so I tried it, and it seemed to work pretty well. But then the audio just started dropping like crazy, just freezing. And so then I tried this Zoom once last year, but I didn't realize, I thought there wasn't an option to record it unless you were going to pay thousands of dollars. But that's actually not the case. And so I think this is going to be probably the workable solution.
Do we still go to tlingitlanguage.com?
Yeah, so everything will still be over there, and then you guys online just let me know if this seems like it's a better option, because I want the option
seems like
that works best for everybody.
Like we could hear, Saul interact, which we've never heard before, where they're just like.
Yeah, and now we can have them on video too, so that when we do presentations, which we're going to do in here eventually.
2-page paper for midterm, right?
Yeah, 2-page paper. Huh? And we're probably going to move. The midterm will be more like.
He said a couple times. I don't know if he's joking.
It'll be more like a 3/4 term, because I want to let us have time to sort of watch it, or to.
I do want to start like preparing my oratory speech. I want to do it all.
Yeah. So you can work on that. That could be your midterm. And so when I say you're going to write a letter, just think of do it in really basic terms, right? So it's a 2-page paper, but I would say think of it as like you're going to write a letter and link it to somebody, and you can address it to whoever you want. You don't have to actually send it. I don't recommend. And let me answer real quick, Teresa Pashtin. Yes, I'm going to put the PowerPoint. The one that we just went over, I'll put that on our website this evening. But I had students before when the first time I taught intermediate Tlingit, someone's like, I want to translate this poem. I was like, yeah, go for it. I love poetry. Don't do anything like that. don't try to do like, hey, this would be don't think too big. Do that for like 3rd year, 4th year stuff. Just translating stuff is really hard. Going either way is really hard. But just come up with some original thoughts. What are some things you would like to share and to do? And we'll have a chance. You don't have to do it all. I can help you a lot. We can have some work sessions in here. Start thinking about that. I probably want to do it, let's say, week before Thanksgiving. Does that sound workable for everybody?
It does.
And this is double-spaced. 4-point font, right? Just circling out all your old music, right? 24 point, got 6-inch margins. No. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna put the template over it to check your margins or anything, but you know. That's
and I just want to let everybody know in the class too that we're gonna start doing regular Tlingit lunch hour Wednesdays at noon, and we did one this past week, and it was
Too late, so I already told them.
yeah, we went over that. But yeah, so that's something you guys might want to think of. This Zoom thing is free if you guys want to try it on your own and maybe open that lunch up to folks who are out there and too. Maybe they want to join you. So, sheesh. Okay, gang, so here we go. Back to the weather. And we're going to get to perfectives, and we're going to start to see when we use, because the reason we talk about the perfective form of the verb not having anything, it doesn't have to do with time. It just means we're talking about this verb in terms of whether or not it has happened, right? Because you can have things like "ich that means I see you, but it could also mean I saw you, which is, gets really interesting as we sort of move back and forth between languages. So these ones, this is what we call, and so now in this chapter it says what verb mode it is. So this is an imperfective verb. That means it is in the process of occurring right now. That is what imperfective means. And so these are terms that we use to talk about how the Tlingit language functions. So to ask how's the weather, wasakuwati, or wasakuyati, kuwake, kuyake. So we see there that the k is just being added on. So we have yati, and you can add k on the front. Now you know we're talking about weather. You can say yake when we add k, and you know we're talking about weather, right? Audigon. Oh, and back to class 10. Yeah, it's an open topic on the paper. If you want to explore something, you can. My and it doesn't have to be a letter, but that's my recommendation because I think that's the easiest thing to do. Because then you're just sort of talking to one person. You're not trying to, you don't have to have a thesis and some big argument, and it's not what it is. But it's just trying to say, I want to see a string of conscious sort of thought all in Tlingits. You could do a lot of sort of looking stuff up as far as finding where the verbs are. You don't have to conjugate them on your own. You can pull stuff out of phrase books. I wouldn't want it to be like, let me read you this story, and then you just sort of retype somebody's story. That's something I wouldn't really want to see.
Is this, it's the, I can't remember the thought, sorry. We're not presenting the essay? No.
Well, we're all going to read it. Like, so I'll be sitting in the corner, and you'll come sit with us in front of the camera. So here's the deal, is we will read these, but that is a class that I will not record and broadcast. Yeah, because it's a midterm, it's a language performance. I don't think those need to be up there for the whole world to see.
Forever and ever.
Yeah. But your finals will be. I think they should be. But they don't have to be. We can negotiate. I'm always up for negotiation.
Right. Did I hear you say you're always up for
well, not like that, but
is
it's
it
like
food or what?
Because there's one time I was teaching intermediate Tlingit, and I said, we're going to do this big test about all this content I taught. And then we started watching these puppet videos. I said, hey, let's just do puppet shows. If you let me record them, we'll just do puppet shows. And they were really fun. They were really fun.
I think if the goal of the final was that each one of us created something that contributed to the learning of the language in some way, you know, whether it was a little skit that you recorded in class or something that we did outside of class that we recorded, and
Yeah.
you could upload to your YouTube channel or some kind of learning.
Yeah, if you guys are feeling shy, it could be something you record on your own. It could be something, it could be, you know, I'm pretty flexible. If you want to say, well, I want to develop this kind of lesson type thing, and it's not just doing what we're doing, but actually something kind of different, I would be open to that too. So the midterm should be this 2-page paper or letter, or whatever you want to call it. But the final, it's pretty open. It's just demonstrating your mastery of something in the language. And it could be something fun, funny. And we'll look at some things that other students have done. One year students did a little horror movie. It was very
The
fun.
one you showed us?
Yeah, the
Oh,
murderer, killer.
Treadwell.
Yeah, and then they did a part 2 later, like even outside of class. One year we did puppet shows, and so there's some, we'll think about it. But for now, if you want to talk like the old people in Yakutats, old people sometimes will say Udigan.
Old?
Some of the old people a long time ago, the people long ago. So that's an interesting thing because, like, yeah, Udigan is how they'd say that one. Push a goose. Push a goose. So you could probably say shagoose, but it would be like weird, like if there was a cloud in here, maybe. But it doesn't mean like foggy or steamy or anything like that. Kuwata. Kuwata. Kuyata. Kuyata. And when there's 2 different ways to say it, there's no right and wrong. It's just some communities don't round that classifier. So the classifier, when we write that Y with the 2 dots because it can round really easy. And so this is why you say tuwati, because it's actually tu-ya-ti. Kusiat. Kusiat. And now these are things as you're sort of communicating. So you call someone and you go meet them somewhere, and you're getting ready. Yes, you need a jacket, right? And so here's the ageh part. So this is it can come right after any of those phrases. Audigan ageh, kuwata ageh, kushaguts ageh. And then you can say or tlake, and then repeat it. We did these ones too. So these are both adverbs. They come up right before the verb. Like let's say you're talking about the Arnold Schwarzenegger of old. He was really strong. And now he's right? And so this one means really. As you say, I really love you. He or she really knows it. She really mastered our language. So everybody say it. Kunach. 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 And then if it's too much, you get kudach. 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 So then you go to Fairbanks in the wintertime. It's too cold. You go to Las Vegas in June. It's too hot. Right? So these are, if you're like, people like to complain about the weather. So these are good complaining phrases, right? I don't want to. It's too hot.
How would you say too rainy?
He wouldn't.
No
Sorry.
You could say kudak siudak usatan.
Things not to do the document.
Yeah, so that one, so the adverb usually comes before, but that thing usually.
So, and I was just looking at the nach and dach. That's through and from.
Oh, okay.
So, and I just saw that you've got that. So that's just kind of interesting.
So here's something that we're kind of, I don't need you. Kashatinech E.T. Siri. So here's some things. So we talked about this k thing, right? I said, oops, that button's too close. So this is k, and this pops up before verbs, but it has this other thing too, and we call it the areal. But really, it just refers to some space, some kind of space. And then there's a set of suffixes, right? And so let me make this bigger. Typing on here is a little bit different than other stuff. So if we have k, and then there's nach, and dach, and t, and day, right? So These are suffixes, okay? On their own, let's see how many of them we can recognize. Oops. What is nach on its own? What does that translate to? Through or along, right? How about dach? From. So as a suffix, it's from. Day, we'll do day first. Towards. And what about the T? Arrived, right? So this is at, and in parentheses, I'll put arrived. So this is kind of this is a pretty fun thing here in Tlingit that I'm going to show you. So if we learn how sort of Tlingit functions, we start to see, things at kind of just in a different way. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to do a whole bunch of things here. So if we have so plus nach, we get chunach, right? I'm trying to figure out how I can do this in the same. You go over there. Go ahead and get smaller. You stay here. I don't know why it's on the bottom. Okay. Anyways, so chunach, how does that translate? Really? Chudach. Oops.
Too much.
Wow. It's like trying to chew gum and walk at the same time. Too much. So those are those two. There's also one which is kut. Do we know what kut translates to? Lost or astray. And then there's this other one that you never really see, today, and it means oh, how am I gonna? I know I gotta look it up. Oops, I'll pull that back up. Hold on.
Take notes here, man. Try to take notes.
So today is into oblivion, right? This is deep stuff. This is deep, deep stuff.
Is that like hell?
Well, the only time that you see it is if you say, today would the moon with this. The moon was eclipsed, right? So there's something about this that does really spectacular things in Tlingit. And it'll pop up on the front of some verbs, and it has these sort of things, right? Chunach, chudach, chut, chudei. And it's just a really, it's one of these big cosmic sort of let it stir in your brain for a while type of things.
So I spent time today trying to figure out how to say this. I don't know if it's right, but if you said day, would that be like you're moving towards war or towards a fight?
Oh yeah, kushagao. You'd usually say kushagao. Yeah, and so you might say kushagao aweh. I would probably just recommend putting an aweh in there and then say ade. Ade yanikut, yeah. So kushagao aweh ade yanikut, which would, and then so it's getting into a metaphor, but that's, you'd be saying you're heading towards war. And so the kushagao is such a big sort of concept, the aweh. So when you use aweh like that, you're just sort of separating it. And then the ade means going towards it, which we've already talked about.
What was the k again?
The k on its own just means a sense, it's some space, some given sort of space. And not like outer space. It's like kawayik. Okay, back to business. But it's interesting, right, as we sort of see it. But now we can use these on any verb. Any verb. Drank too much, ate too much, loved too much, right? He just loved people way too much. Who knows what they were doing. Oh, yeah. So this one, so everybody say Qudah. Qudah. So the dah will sometimes contract if it attaches to something that has a vowel.
So does that little mean that?
So when you see, yes, when you see this tilde, that means sometimes it appears like this. And this is really just like cannot and can't. Or I guess maybe I need a positive one. Maybe not.
So that's linguistics math.
It's all, but you know, and so when we, yes, this class will be recorded and available later. Yep, but this class I will upload to YouTube, but I'll put the link onto Intermediate Tlingit. So it'll be one extra step, and it'll probably happen sometime tonight. I'm going to generally try and do it before I leave campus, but we'll see. Okay, so now we come back to the weather. So now there's these p ones, and we've looked at some of those. Aldagon is a little bit different. But then we're going to get these ones. So if we look at the verb itself, we see the perfective marker on there. Right? So there's that, when we see it start with w, we should see that as a perfective verb. We've got se, which is the plus I version of that classifier. So those two things combined are telling us that it has already happened. And it could still be happening right now. That's the weird thing about Tlingit, is it's not dealing with time. It's just saying this thing is an event. Tlingit loves to look at things as events. Has this thing happened yet? Did this thing happen?
It's completion is where it's measured, right?
Kind of completion, right? So completion you would mark with another adverb, like yun comes up, or yach. So for example, you could say, and it's a little bit, the difference, like for example, I could say huaha, I ate, or I ate it. But if I said yan huasacha, I ate all of it. So sometimes completion is saying, so like yani wane, you're ready. Yangeye wane, are you ready? Yan usually means to some sort of completion, pops up before. But it does mean it has achieved, it has gotten there, whatever it is. It has kind of gotten there. Not quite complete, it just means whatever it is, it has, it's, you know, it is happening, or it has happened. It's weird because English works different, it gets a little tricky on how to always translate this stuff. So anyways, so you have just the verb itself, so just the verb on its own, which you don't, this one you don't say on its own, but if you did, it's wusatan. Wusatan. The verb root means to precipitate. Dark.
Dog.
Dark.
Dog.
Dark.
Dog.
This is a directional term. It has multiple meanings, and I think it's all the same word. Dark means to be on the shore and to go out to the sea. Dark also means to be in hiding or in the shadows and to come out into the open. Dark also means for precipitation, to fall. So it's this kind of, you could see it as a sort of cyclical thing. That's why it's always dark, wusatan. They're just built together, and it means precipitating. There's a noun that comes before it that says what type of precipitation it is. So in this case, glade. Glade, dark, wusatan. Glade, dark, wusatan. So we see long and low, short and low, short and high. So we go a, u, right? We listen, we can see those vowels because it gets really easy to say glade dak wusatan, right? To just compress it all. Glade dak wusatan, to catch that tone, that vowel length. These are things that we focus on also, in addition to learning these new terms. So once you've got this dak usatan, now you can learn all these different types of precipitation and talk about. One of them that's going to come, I'll type it and then you guys can. I probably told you what it was. So you could say nukt. So this is something you might use in the early fall. Nuktati da pusatan.
Nuktati da pusatan.
Nuktati da pusatan.
Nuktati da pusatan.
Can anybody translate that? Or there's a literal translation, which is pretty fun. That's the way.
Grouse.
Grouse. So the first word is grouse. Nukt is a male grouse, like a hooting grouse.
Yeah. Then hotly, does everyone know?
Yisikuke hot. It's not number one. It's number two. And it's not to go poop. It is actual poop. It is poop. Right? So now you have learned this word. You could say this word is the blank, but I won't say it. Hot is poop. But there's several ways to say poop. This is probably the most common one.
So what was it?
Oh, so
What does
I
it mean?
So you say it's precipitating grouse poop. But what this actually is, it's usually one of the first snows, and sometimes in the spring, you get these really big chunky flakes that melt as soon as they hit the ground. Really big flakes that melt. There's another word like the deer hides behind it or something. But this one is my favorite.
That's the one that sucks all the heat out of you?
Yeah, because it's one of those first snows and it's really heavy. It doesn't stick though. This is not the kind of snow that sticks. Here's your bonus word. Okay, so now we get to siu, and siu is a noun for rain. Siu da kusatan.
Siu da pusatan.
Siu da kusatan.
Siu da pusatan.
Kadats da kusatan.
Kadas da pusatan.
Kadats da kusatan.
Kadas da pusatan.
So that's hail. Kaklahin da kusatan.
Kaklahin da pusatan.
Kaklahin da kusatan.
Kaklahin da pusatan.
And the interesting thing about this is you could say, if it rained yesterday, you could say siu da kusatan. And it could also be like it's happening right now. So this is one of those verbs that could, and there's a way to sort of to say like it's happening right now. You can say it a little bit different too.
So in Juneau, we could say it pretty much every day.
Yeah, this is
'Cause it either happens
this is
or
the
it's
only
happening.
weather phrase you need to know. Oh wait, you get to snow a little bit. Okay. Kasechja da kusatan.
Kasechja da pusatan.
Kasechja da kusatan.
Kasechja da pusatan.
This is my favorite weather ever. Just so you guys know. This was the name of my firstborn child at first. I was wanted to name a kid Kasechja. Oh, then she got her big name later. Kudegwats. 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 So gwats is fog, and then we get the k, and it's a D classifier, so we get D. Okay. Ayauditi.
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 So we see this one is also one of those, it can't be windy unless it's already windy, right? And there's a few verbs that are like that. And one of the tricky ones is going to be to know something. So you'd say, chwasaku, I know it, but it's perfective. It has to be perfective because you can't know it till you know it, right? And so there's certain verbs that are like that. They just lean towards this thing where it's an event. It's an event. We have to talk about whether it happened or not. It doesn't matter when it happened. And you could take in, and some people thought that, well, Tlingit doesn't even keep track of time. It totally does, but it just thinks of time in a different way. And then if it's snowing really heavy, Ayakawadan.
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 And so here we've seen, here's the k, that's thematic. It means a space. You have ya, this is thematic. It means a vertical surface or the face of something. And here we have two of them, ya and ka. It's the vertical surface and the horizontal surface. Ka is horizontal. Keshkushke.
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 And that's bad weather, right? So you have the kesh, you also have the classifier changing to the sh. And there's some speakers who say the weather is bad. They'll say it a little bit different. But this is the way that Nora wrote it, this is the way that Nora would say it. So now we get into a couple other weather. So these are more sort of like getting into states, and we're gonna get into states next week. We're gonna start talking about how I'm doing, being tired, being sick, being whatever. You can learn all these different state verbs, and you can start to use them in different ways. And state means for something to be a certain way. Okay. So this means I'm delayed, but like I was gonna go there, but then it started snowing, I can't get out of the house, the fog is too low, I'm not able to fly back home, those types of things. So you say, Khat yawasik.
Khat yawasik.
Khat yawasik.
Khat yawasik.
Khat yawasik.
Khat yawasik.
What is the khat thing? The object, right? So how would I say, you are delayed? But because it's an object and it's it gets crammed right in there. So you say, yawasik. Yawasik.
Yawasik.
We are stuck by the weather. Ha yawasik. Ha yawasik. He or she is delayed by the weather. Yawasik. They are delayed by the weather. Us yawasik. Yak. And then we're back to the little it's a little box. They're so cute. I had to buy this from an artist because I thought it was so cute, but also because I couldn't find.
It's like your favorite weather, but we all know that rain kills cardboard.
Don't kill my dreams, man.
I'm just trying to like.
Well, fine. I kind of like this sad theme anyway, so it's like, this is the last picture of the box person. Okay. Khat with the tuck. Khat with the tuck. Khat with the tuck. Khat with the tuck. Nice. It'd be a good album cover. Ishan.
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 So this is a word you have to know how to use, because you can use it teasing a lot, right? It's used, 90% of it is used for teasing. I had this one really bad student who one time translated this as khune, which was hilarious, but it's used a lot, like if someone's kind of complaining.
I always thought it was my name.
Because they might say, because you might say, what's and they'll say, khat with the khat. And if it's like a mother of a newborn child, you might not tease them. But if it's someone else, you might say, Ishan. And there's a way you could say this where it's just kind of teasing and just being used that way. It's used a lot like that. But it's also such a powerful word in Tlingit that there's a story that comes out of the Klukwan area that when the big sicknesses really hit that community, Klukwan was a really big place. And there were a lot of little villages around it. There was this little village over there nearby. And when that smallpox and influenza and tuberculosis came, it like killed off a lot of these little villages. And they were sitting there in Klukwan, and they looked over and they saw smoke coming out of one of those houses in one of those little villages down the way. And they said, "Whoa, we thought everybody died. Go see how they're doing." And they said they went in there and everybody had died. Everybody had been killed off by these sicknesses except for this mother and her children. and she kept it together for her children. When they came in and they saw what it was like, they said, Ishan. And she broke down just because of that. So you can put a lot of compassion into this word. This is the thing that you say when someone gives you really bad news. And there's other things you could say after that to help them. But these are, once we sort of get to this, we always think about the emotions that we put into language. And Pengesi would talk to us about this when he'd come to visit our class. And we'll bring him in here this semester too. He'd say, you're not a robot, And we joke around in here a lot and we laugh because we want to keep it fun. But we also keep in mind that this language has such a big, all languages do, right? All languages have all these different functions. So we just want to keep an eye on that. And then there's verb versions of this, but this isn't really a verb. You say Ishan khat, Ishan wa'ah, Ishan uhan. So it could be followed by an independent pronoun to just say, so same thing. Like it could be funny, like we missed the bus, Ishan uhan, and you can laugh, but it could be serious too, like in the case of a lot of recent things that have been going on. So now let's talk about words that actually refer to time. So right now, yidat, 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 yidat. And it's really neat because it can work like as an adjective, right? They say yidat Tlingit, which would be the Tlingits of today, the Tlingits of right now. You can say Chag Tlingit, the Tlingits of long ago, right? And then today, Yayaki, 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 Yayaki. Yesterday, Tatke, 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 Tatke. And then when you want to add, because you could say, oh, yesterday it was sun shining and it rained, right? It did multiple things. Or when someone asks, Dasai tuasaku, Kahwe, ka shinipsi sakning, you can just give them your list, right? Ka is N, right? Ka, 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 s, and that is also, right? So you could say, Siudaku satanyaya gi hatatke. It was raining today, and it was raining yesterday as well. Okay, so then you could say, Audegan yayaki, right? This is how the weather is today. And you could say, Siudaku sitan tatke. It was raining yesterday. So what we're going to start working on now is saying what happens when we do talk about yesterday. We do talk about tomorrow. And so once we add the time element in there, now we'll see the verbs start to change. And we did this, in the spring. We did this probably in the fall of last year. But now we're going to continue to take closer looks at it and see what exactly is changing in these verbs. It's not mysterious at all, but there are quite a few moving parts. But when you just look at the main things you want to focus on is to do perfective, imperfective, and future. You can start learning some other stuff, but we're going to really focus on those. Because then you just say, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what's happening. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Any questions or anything? That's as far as we're going to go, but I want to make sure that everybody's okay.
Is there a difference when you say, like, we're going over E for I, like, is the team, I, WW, but I see other people do two E's instead of an I.
Oh, yeah, it's totally, so like you could say, for example, A. You could say E. So the I pronoun, the letter I pronoun, which is the second person you, could be it or E. It could be either way. It doesn't make any difference. If it's the subject, it has to be the short one. Anything else?
Fill this up.
Okay. Okay. Here's cheese. Thanks everybody online for your patience. I hope this was a better experience. We'll probably stick with this. I'll keep you guys in the loop. But the link should, as far as I know, stay the same. But I'll let you know. If all else fails, just check the blog, and the link will always be on the blog. Okay, cheers.
So is it Tlingit plus
Precipitating.
Can you say, I keep putting a K sound in there, but I don't think there's a K sound in there, so can you say it one more time?
Oh, Tlingit Precipitating. So there's two K's.
Okay, I was thinking that.
Eoxetine is I see you now. Precipitating, I will see you later. It's in the future. Okay, what?
And then there's Wushier Gachtusetin.
Yes, well, there's Wushier Gachtusetin. So there's no consonant in the classifier. So remind me when we meet next Tuesday, and we'll go over why that. Yeah. Jay Shuhan.
When you said.